Welcome to the Fleet Watcher video training series. In this video, we will discuss the preventive maintenance feature.
We'll start with like the PMs, just kind of the basics, and then I'll show you how to do it on the phone if you've got field techs out there doing field repairs or anything like that. First thing I'll go to is the preventative maintenance screen. So that's under fleet, and then that's under maintenance, and then preventive maintenance right here. And that will take you to this screen here. Right here is where you select your assets. And this screen is really kind of a one and done. Once you put in the PM and you schedule it, you really don't come back here unless you want to look at previous records or things that were done in the past, or you want to put in like a one-time service, and I'll show you that. So here's an example of one with just nothing entered. So I chose the asset 12-102, no preventive maintenance data found. So this is what pretty much all your equipment will look like whenever you go to enter it in. And this is what it'll look like once you start entering records in. So as you enter records in, these line items will build out, and each line item will represent its own service. You can put notes and things like that. Once you've got this in, you can go to the maintenance due, which is under fleet, maintenance, maintenance due. And here's an example what it will look like as you start building it out. So you can see here, these are all your maintenances that are due. If it's not colored, it's not due. So right here, you can see you got 476 hours till it's due. Then you've got upcoming, which highlights it in yellow. That roughly pops up around 30 hours out. And then maintenance overdue turns red as soon as the maintenance goes beyond what you had scheduled. I'll go back here to this screen, and I'm going to walk you through one on how you actually enter a PM in. I'm going to go ahead and choose 31301 excavator. So let's say, hey, we did a PM on Monday. It was completed. So you've got your PM start date, PM end date. You never have to really worry about the PM end date. It's not really relevant. But the PM start date that's going to be the date that you did the maintenance. Once you've got the PM start date for off-road pieces or anything you're tracking hours on, you're going to use PM type 1. If you're tracking it by odometer like a truck, you'll use PM type 2. These PM types are completely customizable, or you can leave this. So right here are the hours. You've got a couple of default options here. If you want to track by hours and mileage, if you do that kind of service on vehicles mainly, or some equipment, off-road dump trucks, things like that, maybe even a loader. You've also got some miscellaneous, unscheduled service call and state inspection. State inspections really for anything on your trucks that may be involved in DOT stuff. If the things along those lines where you're dealing with maybe a yearly deal, you can actually schedule these by date and not hours. Miscellaneous and unscheduled and service calls, those are usually like your one and done, like, hey, we blew a hydraulic pump out in the field. I had to schedule a service call and send out a tech. He fixed it. We don't need any follow-up to it, but we want to keep a record of that. And these are your hours that you can go by. It goes by 50 increments all the way to like 625, then there's 1,000, 2,000 hours. We did a PM on this excavator, and we did a 500-hour PM. The physical hour meter reading is 7,500 when I did the PMs. This note section's free form. You can put anything you want in it. You can put filter numbers, things like that, and you can always go back and reference this if you need to. I do PMs by 500 hours. My next PM is going to be a 1,000 hour service because I just did a 500. I'm going to schedule a 1,000, and I want that PM to pop up in 500 hours. And all this is the same on the odometer side. You're just using miles instead of hours. So I'm going to go ahead and add the maintenance record. So there you can see the maintenance record is there. And I'm going to go back to the maintenance due. I'm going to refresh the screen. And there's your new maintenance record. That's the record we just entered for the excavator. Current hour meter. You've got 479 hours till it's due, a 500-hour interval. The odometer The reason it's pulling odometer is because it's a bus connected device, and it's basically just kind of a default. So obviously for excavators and backhoes, you're not really paying attention to that odometer. Your next PM type is going to be a 1,000 hour service. If you were scheduling things by date, you would have a date here. And then this is also super helpful. They give you the project in the current geozone. But what this is good for is that you could look on here, and if you're trying to schedule your field techs, you could actually filter by projects. And all these are completely filterable. You can click them and they'll move around, you know, in order. So you could say, hey, we've got 2 pieces of equipment at the FAT building. Obviously, these are not due for service, but if they were, you could actually schedule your techs to kind of look on certain projects, you know, and you can schedule them out to maybe do 2 PMs while they're on one project, save you time, things like that. As you can see here, this one that's overdue, we're gonna now complete this PM and update it. So this is where I was saying once you enter the PM in this screen, you're really kind of done. You don't enter any more next PMs unless you're scheduling something completely separate. For trucks, you may have a transmission service that you want to keep separate from your oil change services. This is where you could enter that next service, and you can actually have multiple PMs for one piece of equipment running at the same time. So right now I'm going to say, hey, we did this PM on 42101. I'm going to go ahead and click add. Do not click the complete button. This is a new button that they just put in, and it's for what we call duplicates, and they're just issues that may pop up every now and then, and it's an easy way for us to clear out a record. Do not hit this complete button without talking to Luke or somebody, because it just can cause some problems. You want to hit the add button. Let's say I did this service, I click add, same window pops up, it's just in a different screen. And let's say I'm gonna complete this PM. I did it today. The PM type has to match what you scheduled. So the next PM type was a 1,000 hour service. So you did a 1,000 hour service. The hour meter reading was 2892. Fill in the notes section. The next PM would be a 1,500 hour with a 500 hour interval, add maintenance record. Once it's added, you can close this screen, you can refresh, and there you go. 42101 has now been updated. You got 499 hours until the next PM, and your next PM type's a 1,500. And then if you go beyond 15, I know most people don't go beyond 2,000. So once you hit 2,000, you can actually go back and schedule a 500 hour after that. So this is your PM due. You can actually set up alerts for PMs. So you can do a PM upcoming alert, which will email you and let you know that PM's upcoming on this asset. And you can actually set the hours, miles, and date. So those can be completely customizable. So let's say you want an alert 50 hours or 25 hours before that piece of equipment becomes overdue. You can set up that alert, and it will send you an email as soon as the equipment hits 25 hours before it's due. And it'll say, hey, this piece of equipment's PM is upcoming. And then you can actually set up a PM overdue alert when that PM is due. The minute it rolls over and turns to red as overdue, it sends an email to you saying, hey, this asset is now overdue for the PM. So that's one good thing to kind of keep you up to speed on what's going on. And then over here on the map screen, when you go to your map, there's that 51101. You can actually click on it and it will give you the last PM hour and the next PM hour. So if you got a guy in the field and he's kind of around there, he can look at the hour meter and see when the next PM is. Or you can even click this button, gives you a little bit more detail. There's your PM information, things like that. The biggest thing is when you complete a service, you click this add button, you make sure that the PM that you're completing matches this next PM type. Let's say your machine is in a plant, you can't get a guy in there and you miss the 1,000 hour service and you say, hey, we're just going to go ahead and do a 1,500. If you click add and you put in 1,500 as a service being done, you'll get what we call a duplicate. So the system thinks that the 1,000 hour service was not done and you're doing a new service. That's kind of rare. You'll know it when it happens, but just know that when you click add, that next PM type needs to be here on this selection. If it doesn't, then it's actually pretty simple. Let's say, hey, we missed the 1,000 hour service on this 21-101, but we're going to do a 1,500. All you have to do is go into here, go to 21-101 and say, hey, we had 1,000 hours scheduled, but we missed it. We want that next PM type to be a 1,500. So you go down to this next PM type and you change it from 1,000 to 1,500, edit the record and refresh this screen. And there you go. You've updated it now to a 1,500. So when you click the add button, you can say, okay, now we're doing a 1,500, go about all the normal stuff and you won't end up with a duplicate. So that's just kind of a rare thing, but it does happen. You'll notice it because on this maintenance due, you'll have 2 PMs for 21-101 and you'll be sitting there going, I don't know how I got 2 PMs. Well, that's usually the reason. That pretty much wraps up the PMs on here. I can show you on the app. When you open the app, you'll go to locator and then you'll search the piece of equipment that you're, doing the service on. So you can do that 51-101. And so that pops up. You'll see that maintenance button at the bottom. When you click that, that's the last maintenance that was performed. So you can see the PM type, the meter, the notes is just test. All you have to do is hit the plus button on the top right. You put in your start date just like you normally would. Your PM type 1, like I said, needs to match whatever was scheduled. So it was a 500 that was needing to be done, I believe. So the PM type 1's there. PM type 2 is there for odometers. Your hour meter, you'll enter that in. Your notes, and then there's your next PM information. So it's basically identical to the computer. And then you just save that record once you're done. So that's how a field tech could actually enter that information in. Like I said, just making sure that I try and harp on this, that PM type 1 just has to match what you said you were going to schedule, or you have to, edit that record. And doing that in the field I don't think you can do that in the field. So whoever's in the shop or is scheduling those PMs, if you see kind of that coming up, you just need to change it. That's the PMs. Is
there a quick way to see if you have multiple PMs there? You have an oil change, transmission service, tire rotation, whatever. Is there a quick way to see all those, or do you have to physically click into each one to see which one is which?
No. So as these build out, I'm just going to put in a second PM so you can see what it looks like. There you can see now 21-101 has 2 PMs. Technically, if you did like tire service or something like that, this next PM type would say like tire service or transmission service. You can filter them like this, or you can filter them through the select equipment. So only that piece of equipment shows up. So there you can see now we have 2 PMs. Now these PMs are running together. They will pop at different times. So this one's going to actually go and say overdue in 24 hours, and this one's actually 500 hours away. So they're running separately. So you'd actually get 2 separate alerts for this piece of equipment.
Obviously, you can't see it on that, the one screen where it says, hey, this is a tire change or whatever. You have to click into it. So you answered my question. And there's separate intervals, as far as when the next PM is needed. So you're really not going to need to look at that. You're going to look at, when it's due and then click in it and be like, oh, I need an oil change in 24 hours or whatever. So
yeah, like this next PM type is where that information would be. Like if you wanted to put in like a transmission service, you could actually say transmission service or tire inspection, or
by making that custom.
Yeah, by making that custom, and then you can select that, and instead of next PM type just being 500, it would be gearbox inspection in 500 hours or whatever it is, but that information would be right here. The details of the notes won't be in here. They'll be in the records here. But really what you've scheduled and what you're doing will be under this next PM type. And that's where those custom PMs come into play if you want to do that or go that route.
And with that custom one, are you able to, say we upload it to one excavator for an oil change, and then we want to use that same, custom one for an oil change for a backhoe? Can we use that, or do we have to remake that new one?
So yeah, this is just a good example of someone who's completely customized their PMs. There's no difference between the excavator, the backhoe. If you want something excavator specific, you just put it in the PM type and it'll just be for the excavator, but it'll still be available to select for any piece of equipment. So there's no differentiation between the equipment and what pops up on this PM type. I think that was your question.
Yeah. And I guess you might have already touched on it, but how do you make a custom one?
You send us the list. Just send Luke a message, send him an email and be like, hey, this is how we want our PM types to look. Or, we just want this added in, but you can leave everything else. So it's really up to you guys how you want to track them.
For more information about this feature or other features within FleetWatcher, please contact your CSS representative today and schedule a training.